Hello everyone. Today's topic is Altium Designer New Hidden Features. I am Rajeshwari, Application Engineer from PCB GraphTech. So today's agenda, you can see some of the hidden features. We are going to see how useful these features and how comfortable to be used inside the software. Okay, then we are going to see the live demonstration. And finally, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat panel. Okay, so let me go directly to the topic. So the first topic is about your optimal length tuning. So when you are working with the multiple signal nets, okay, that time it requires tuning across the number of signals, or you just need the length match between the differential pairs, you can use this length tuning. Okay, the length tuning now supports three popular patterns. One is accordion, the trombone, the last one is your sawtooth. Okay, if you are working with low speed or low frequency signals, you can get away with this trombone or accordion tuning. You will notice that there are multiple 90-degree or 180-degree angle turns in this trace configuration. Using curves for these bend is preferable to using a hard right angle, and that it creates a smaller impedance discontinuity. You can see it here, since it is a small turns at an angle of 90-degree or 180-degree, both in your trombones as well as in your accordions. Okay, so whereas when you go for the sawtooth tuning, it is a polygonal area which don't have any smooth bends. You can see the corner, it don't have any smooth bends along the trace. So these dimensions are used to minimize the impedance discontinuities along the length of the trace. Okay, so here they are great in places where you need to use it, which place where you cannot use your accordion or your trombone. At that locations, you can use this sawtooth tuning, and mainly is for high-speed applications. Okay, so this accordion tuning and the trombone tuning are similar. They are also called as serpentine routing pattern. Okay, so both accordions help you maintain tighter coupling, okay, along the length of the traces. So accordion tuning does not affect the serpentine pattern of, this is the accordion, it does not affect your serpentine pattern or to the side of the trace. Instead, it can be routed along the length of the desired signal trace, making out accordion a better choice than the trombone tuning. Okay, so here to combat the issue of limited space, when you're having the limited space to do the length tuning between the one trace and the other trace, at that time you can go for this sawtooth tuning. Otherwise, you can go for this accordion or the trombone tuning. There is one more new feature we have in when you use the accordion. So you can, when there is a limited space, you can use the control key and you can rotate it to a certain degree of angle to make it more comfortable in the meander length of the tuning. Okay, you can do it. This can be done both for your single-ended nets or the differential pair nets. Okay, so second is about your generic components. So when you go for the generic components, it can be challenging to pick up the right components when working on a new schematic. And many times it is not necessary for the getting a new component for the early stages of development. Okay, so to expedite the process of laying out the early stages of the design, Altium introduced a concept of using the generic components, that is made up of a basic standard generic components which can be quickly placed in the design. Okay, so because it is the early stage, so we can just quickly place the components, and whenever in the later stage or the advanced stage of your design, whole project has been finished. So if you want to change the component, you can easily change it. Okay, you can select all the components which you want to change it, and it can be done in a single step, and it is a very immediate process. Okay, so it also acts as a placeholders that are easily replaced by the suitable component. Okay, so they are also, this generic components are also considered as virtual or parametric components. So this component, each generic component will have a unique symbol for easy identification and the replacement. Okay, so this components replace the component properties or set of components of the same time along in the active BOM also. Okay, in the active BOM also you will see the replacement of the component properties. Either you can do it inside the schematic editor or you can do it inside your active BOM where you can see the changes in the component properties. Okay, so this is about your generic components. Then the third one is about your new hotkeys. Okay, so this is for mainly for the three enhancement in the 3D mode. So one of the recent improvements in 3D mode is the appearance in the rotation button. Okay, in the properties panel, you can see there is a rotation along X, Y, and Z direction, and the arrows in the, you can use the arrows in the number keypad. You have your laptop or your desktop, you have a number keypad and you can use this number keypads to rotate. For if you want to rotate in 3D screen like 4, you can press 4, 6, 8, 2 to rotate it in left, right, up or down. So these you should press only in the number keypad side. Okay, so you can do that. Then if you want to move or do the panning, okay, you can also do the move or panning of your board by using again press only with the control keys, control 4, control 6, control 8 and control 2 to move left, move right, or move up or move down. Okay, the same thing. Next, how to view it. In the 3D view, we can usually control to view whether in the top view or in the bottom view. You can just press 1 or control 1 to see in the top view or bottom view. Then you can press 3 to view in the left or right view, or then you can press 7 or control 7 to view in the front or back of your board. So all this you can see it under the view tab. Here you can see on the menu bar you have a view menu. Under the view menu we have this new 3D view control, so which you can view the top side, what is the keys you have to press in your keyboard. So all this information you can refer here so that it is easy to use the shortcut keys and make your work job to be very easy and faster. Okay, so next one is component pin to multiple pad mapping. So this is a very good feature which is introduced in Altium Designer 21. Okay, so this is flexible pin to pad mapping capabilities for the managing components. In single component editor, we can edit the new pins panel, allow component symbol pins. Here you can see there is a component symbol pins to be mapped to any component footprints. Okay, you can see that they are mapped to the footprints with the different pad numbers. Okay, so using the editor button, I can change the custom relationship in pin mapping with the multiple footprint fabrication panel, and then use for these pads are separated by using a comma. Okay, the pads in the footprints are separated by a comma. The main advantage is we can use the cross probing to link between the pin from the symbol to the footprint in your PCB. For example, if you see, I have pin 1 here in the schematic. I have connected to the mapped to 3 pads, 1, 2, 3 in my footprint. So when I want to check whether it's properly connecting to the pad 1 or 2 or 3, I can do the cross probing from the schematic. So it will highlight the corresponding pads inside my PCB. So you can also do the cross check. Okay, so this is a very good feature we have in 21. Then next one is embedded board array at any angle. So this is one of the new feature. We usually have the rotation angle in our embedded board array. So usually if you see there in up to 20 Altium Designer 20 version, you can rotate at an angle of 0 degree, 90 degree, 180 degree, 270 degree or 360. Only the selected options were available. But when you go for this latest version of 21, you can just type in any angle. Okay, any angle you want, you can type like 225 degree or 85 degree, any angle. This is mainly, this feature is mainly for the fabrication purposes and for the assembly process to make your fabrication to be more easy and reduce the time to the market. Okay, so that is your rotate any angle. So next one is you can also calculate the polygon pore area. So now this is very good feature we have, which is reducing the time for the manufacturers or the designers to calculate the copper area in your board. So when you have a polygon, it's really important to optimize the overall balance of your copper across any area. Okay, any area of the layer. Now you can do this precisely in your design itself. So by going to the tools, polygon pore, under the polygon manager, you can able to view all the areas of the polygons. If you go for the top layer, you can see what are all the polygons we have in the top layer and how much area is used by the polygon pore in that particular layer. So individually you can see their areas. And finally, if you want to create the report, okay, I want to generate the copper report, you can also generate it, but you can go to the board properties. Instead of your polygon pore properties, you can directly go to the board properties. You can click on the report button. So once you click the report button, you can generate the copper pore for your whole board in terms of percentage wise, overall percentage of the copper pore for your board. Okay, you can determine it inside your Altium Designer 21. So the next feature is we can also see your component area calculation now. Okay, so this one is also a new feature. Now we can determine your component area as well as the density. Okay, so first we can determine what is the board area. You can see here the board area is calculated for your whole board, and then you can also determine components area. So component area, it also depends upon the bounding box of the components, all this. So how many components you have, you can determine how many components, how many layers, what are the nets you're using, how many nets you're using, arc, fills, pads, all the informations you can see inside the board properties panel. Then you can also see what is the total area occupied by the components. So the component can be in the top layer or in the bottom layer. So it calculates all the area of the components. Then the total area is the whole out, considering the outline of the whole board is the total area of the board, which you can see here. And next is you can calculate the density. So the density is nothing but you have to use a formula. In the Altium Designer, the formula we use is double the area of your board divided by the component area will give you the density in percentage. Okay, so doubling the area of the board divided by the component area, we can calculate the density. Okay, so default we can see it in your board here. Okay, and then you can also see the report button in your properties panel here. So when you click the report, you can also generate the report for your arcs, your fills, your trays, your copper area, all the board information, whatever you want the report, you can generate it from your board properties panel itself. Okay, so then next one is your component contour selection. So if you see here, in the earlier versions, Altium Designer 19, so each component will have the bounding box. So that bounding box, when we bring the component closer together, since they have the bounding box, even though the component does not touch each other, the bounding box of the component, when they come closer, it will create some clearance violation, and so it occupies a lot of space. Okay, so we cannot keep them closer. So this is one of the drawback we had in the earlier version. And then in the earlier 20, we have an advantage that we started rotating the bounding box along with the component in any angles. Okay, we started rotating with the bounding box so that we can minimize the violations in your, when you do the online DRC or you do the batch DRC. So now the latest is Altium Designer 20. We have introduced a new feature like a courtyard. Okay, there is a layer called courtyard layer. So having this layer can be added to your component. Using this layer to your component, it appears as the shape of that component, so that it still reduces the spacing. It minimizes the spacing and avoids the violation what we get in the other releases. Okay, so whenever we rotate any component, so the courtyard layer which is inside the component will also follow with the same component, so we can avoid this clearance or rotation issues when the bounding box touch each other. So we will see here that we don't have any bounding issues. This one later we will see in the demo more detail. Okay, next one is the text string alignment and justification. So here, if you see the text string, in the earlier versions, the string location was the left end of the string baseline. It was in the left end of the baseline, which changed to the bottom left corner of the string bounding box. If the bounding box was interactly lodged, okay, you can do horizontal shift to the baseline location of the string. That is, now you can use to shift justification. You can use it to shift either left or right or center. Also, you can use the justification vertically. You can move up or down or center. Okay, so there are justification has been improvised here. So, okay, you can see in the properties panel, and then the justification can be done inside the bounding box to place it vertically up, down or center, or left or center or right. So all this can be done now inside the software. Also, we can do the alignment also, okay, for the text strings. So next feature is about your designator layer for assembly drawings. So in this, we are going to see about adding your designator layer for the assembly drawings so that you can see all the designators. This is a very new feature and interesting feature we have in Altium Designer 21, so that it can create all the designators by generating the new layer from using one of the mechanical layer as a designator layer. It generates and you can see all the designators there. Okay, so here if you see, you can go to tools, add designators for assembly drawing. So when you click on it, first initially it will say there is no mechanical layer for designator found. Means we didn't assign any layer, but what it will do, the software will generate for you. It will automatically generate and then it will name it as a top designator layer or bottom designator layer based on the based on the assembly layer we are using in your project. Okay, so this can be done based on your PCB document. It will generate your top designator layers. If you're going for the library, it will also generate for the footprints also. Okay, either way you can do. In the PCB document, to generate for all components you can do, or inside the footprints for the library also you can do this. Okay, so the next one is interactive smart PDF output. So this is also one of the new feature. So usually we know that when you have your top sheet and we click one of the sheet entry, or when you click one of your sheet symbol, using the control key, it will automatically take you to the child sheet, to that location exactly. This has been improvised to do it inside your smart PDF output also now. Okay, so you can open your smart PDF and then you can just click on one of your sheet symbol. It will take you automatically to child sheet. So this reduces the viewer timing, okay, and makes it faster to view all the details of your child sheets in your PDF. Okay, so the next feature is update your unused pad shapes. Okay, now previously we have only two options we had. One is remove unused pads and wires, then other one is restore unused. Either we can remove the pads or we can restore the pads. This was available up to version 20. In 21, we have the new feature is we can update the unused pads. So meaning we can update with the pads what we want alone. It's nothing but in adding all the pads. Instead of adding all the pads, we can update only the pads what we want. Okay, that is one of the greatest feature we have in the recent. Okay, so when we are adding, what is the advantage is, so when you're adding this the unused pads or removing the unused pads, what will happen, which is not connected to any active conductive patterns of the layer. So it creates it removes the extra capacitance which is created by the pads. Okay, so it can be removed now. Because of removing the pads and wires, it will be removing the extra capacitance in the path. Okay, so next feature we are going to see is about your permanent layers. So in the permanent layers, usually we use the single mode to see a single layer at a time. Single mode layer, we can see top layer or bottom layer. But now this permanent layer will allow you to add another layer by using the whole control key, which will be permanently added with that particular layer to see in the single layer mode. That layer what you're adding is also called as reference layer. Okay, so you can do this. Then the next feature is asymmetric strip line impedance calculation. So this feature is mainly here. Normally, we know that a symmetric strip line impedance calculation, we have two ground planes, and your the trace will be the symmetric strip lines we have, and the trace will be at the center. But for this asymmetric strip line, you can have between the two conductive layers, you can add any number of dielectric layers. Okay, there is no limitation like one layer or two layer. They should be balanced. Okay, you can increase the number of dielectric layers, and then the thickness of the layers, and the what is it, dielectric constant of the layers can no need to be same for each layer. Okay, so they can be anything. And then the main advantage is the trace can be either in the downwards, or it can be in the return path. It can be reversed also. Okay, so these features we have in the new version. It's mainly for high speed design to calculate your asymmetric strip line impedance calculation. This one we will see in our demonstration more detail. Okay, so finally last one is we are going to see about the simple net assignment. So when you draw a copper bow in your PCB, so for certain area, at that time if you want to assign one of the nets, there may be hundreds of nets within that area. You don't know which one to assign from your properties panel. You have to click the arrow mark, and then we need to choose which net you want to assign for the particular copper area. So instead of doing that, we can just click on this pipette. Here, when you click on the pipette, automatically a small crosshair will come, and so that you can see this, there is a small green crosshair here. So you can go within that area and select any of the electrical object like your nets, your pads, or anything. So automatically that net will be highlighted here. So this copper pore will be all following that particular highlighted net. Okay, so it is very easy and fast to assign the nets for the copper pore now. Okay, so now we will go for the demonstration. So first let me go for, okay, first we are going to see about the length tuning. So to do the length tuning, so let me go for, okay. I'm going to do the length tuning. So here, length tuning here, first I just start with the, press the tab key. You can see there are three different new tuning patterns. I choose the accordion pattern first. So you can adjust your amplitude, steps, or the meter styles, what you want to use. You can choose here, or I just start drawing here using the accordion pattern. So just draw here. You will see there is a pattern coming here. So when the pattern comes, there is a shortcut keys. You can use either 3 or 4 to increase or decrease the amplitude size. Okay, you can use 3 or 4 key in your keyboard, and then you can also adjust the meter, the corner angles by using 1 or 2. By pressing 1 or 2, you can increase or decrease the corner meter angles. You see the corner meter angles, they are changing slightly with the corner ends. Then you can also increase or decrease the amplitude here by pressing the comma or full stop. Okay, so once you have done, you can just do this, and then you can adjust the size here how you want. Okay, so once you have drawn it, okay, you can just click here, right click, come out of it. Okay, now once I drawn the accordion, if I want to select it and do the adjustment, I want to increase the size, I want to decrease the size, here the adjustments you can do here. Also, if I want to rotate it, as I say, when there is the gap between the one one of the trays and the other trays is very small, and you want to adjust based on the angle. Now the new feature is you can hold the control key, and then you can rotate it. You can see you can rotate it here. Okay, so it will be automatically adjusted the angle. So this one you can do it now for the accordion. Okay, then if I want to go for the next method is the trombone tuning. So to do the trombone tuning, let me go for the differential pad tuning, and then I can start it from here. You can see that. Okay, you can see there's a, this is the accordion I have used. Let me go for the trombone tuning. So you again, when I go to trombone tuning, you can change the space, the step, what you want. For example, I want the space to be 0.4 and the step I follow 0.1 itself. Then just click here, and then you can start doing here. You see this is okay. Now you can see here it is following a single side. It is not going for the both side. You see when I move, it is following single site. When I press the tab key, you can see below the single site is selected. So I uncheck here and then do here. Now you see it will be in the both the sides. And then it's very important, when I finish it here, you can see the corners are at an angle of 90 degree or 180 degree. So we have some impedance discontinuity here since they are rotated at an angle of 90 degree at the corners, 90 or 180 degree at the corners. Okay, so you can also adjust the size here and then you can move up or down. Okay, increase or decrease the sizes. Okay, so this is your trombone tuning you can do here. Then you can also go for the last one is sawtooth tuning. So I just go for sawtooth. So if you want to change the angle, you can change to any angle. That is, I use 75 degree and the tooth width I use 0.1. You want to use single side fixed. I'm using for my case single side and fixed. So I just use it. And then if I want to here bring it, you can see here. So I'm using the single side. Okay, so single side I can just use it here. Let me make it to be more comfortable here. I just use here itself to make it more easier. Okay, you can see here, so it's more clear. Okay, so it is a single side and it is fixed, meaning the height is fixed. You can see the height is not bigger or smaller. One is big, one is small. It's not like that. The height is fixed and it is one side. So you can do the sawtooth tuning. Okay, but remember the edges are sharp here when you're using the sawtooth tuning. So it can be used only for high speed application or high frequency application in the cases. Okay, so this is the first one. And then next one is we are going to see about the generic components. So let me go for doing the generic components. So I go for the schematic and then let me go for here. I have not connected here. Give me a minute. Okay, I'm connecting to my workspace first to get the generic components. So now I connected here. You will see my server, it's PCB GraphTech. When I open my component panel, you will see these are the some of the generic components based on the resistor, the diodes, the capacitors, all these. So to select, I don't want to go for selecting directly. Instead, I can get a component from here. So for example, I'm getting a component for a resistor. So I'm just selecting one of the resistor here and then I'm trying to place it. Okay, I just use 4 resistors. Okay, I just use 4 resistors, generic components. So I don't know what is the value or any parameters. Just I had a generic components. So once I select all the 4, go to the properties panel. You will see the designator, the description, all the information about the components here, resistor, and then coming below, you can see the properties. Okay, so the properties you can see the parameters you can see there is a case, the pins, all this information. From this, I want to assign the value for this resistors. So to assign the value, I just click on the value. Here I can scroll down and find out what value I want to use for the resistors. So I can choose 1 kilo ohm resistor. So let me scroll here. Okay, scroll down to see 1 kilo ohm resistor. So once I choose 1 kilo ohm and click on the I symbol, so they will be able to see the value here. Okay, so I can see the 1 kilo ohm resistor. So you can add in like that. Then if in the later stage, as I told you, the generic components can be added at any stage, earlier basic stage, standard, or the advanced stage. So when I add it as a draft standard stage, in the later as an advanced stage, I want to edit the components or I want to change the component, you can go to the design item ID and then you can click here to get your components which is specific for that particular 1 kilo ohm resistor. It automatically selected 1 kilo ohm resistors alone. So you can choose which resistor you want to use it for the advanced stage of the design. Okay, so this is one method of selection. I'm not going to use this method. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to generate the component parameters directly from the active BOM. Okay, so I'm going to use it generate from the active BOM and then see that parameter properties here. Okay, so to do that, first I'm going to give the annotation for this components. So I just go to tools, annotation, then annotate schematic quietly. So the numbering has been done. So once it is done, let me open my ActiveBOM. Okay, so ActiveBOM, you will see the resistors here. What I have added there is, you can see R31, 32, 33. So these are the resistors, 4 resistors I have added. So now you see that there is no manufacturer details, manufacturer part number, all these not available. So to bring in the advanced stage to add the new component, to change the component, we can just right click and go for the operation, change the resistor 1 kilo ohm. Okay, so once you go and change here, it will highlight, show you what are all the resistors related to 1K we have. Okay, so from this you can choose which resistor you want to use. So for example, let me choose this resistor and then click OK. So when you add that, automatically it will show you the parameters, the old parameters to be removed and changed to the new parameters for the particular resistor. So the replacement of the 4 parts. So I do the validate changes, execute changes. It's very important to do this, then close. So all the changes of the component is done. Now you will see the component here are 31, 32. You can see the manufacturer, the part number, product volume, production, all the information. Also, you can see the supplier information below for that component. So once you have done the changes here, you can go to the schematic sheet and then see whether these parameters are updated for your component or not. Okay, so we go to the component, just double click on one of the component. You will be able to see the properties. You see here, the description, all the parameters of the component has been updated. Okay, so this is how you can update it directly by changing the component from your ActiveBOM. Okay, so this is about your generic components. Then next we are going to see about your component pin to pads mapping. How to do the component pins to pad mapping. So let me add a component and show you how to do that. So going to the component panel, and then I'm going to search for a component called PAD54. Okay, I'm going to search for a component. So going to do the component pin to pads mapping. So right click, let me place the component here. Okay, when I'm placing, you can see at the input side it is pin 1 and the output side I have pin 2 and 3. So I need to edit this component because the component pin to pad mapping, how it is done. Let me show you how this works. So go to the component panel, right click on that particular component. You can go for edit option. So when you go for edit, you will be able to see the single component editor. This is called the single component editor inside our server. So you will see the name, the description, the parameters of the component, and then you can see the symbol 1, 3. So I have 2 footprints here. I want to do the mapping. You can see I have only 2 pins. But if you see the footprints, I have 3 pads. So what happened, I can use the short circuit of the 2 pads in the 2 cases. And then I can use 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, anything. Okay, it's based on the designer usage. So to do the pin mapping, you can press on pin mapping here. Edit pin mapping here. So automatically you will see the information. So first one is the name is A and the pin is 1. So when you go for the name A, the first one, the pin is 1 here and it is a passive pin. This is the first footprint followed by this. Okay, so I'm giving 1 for the pin designator 1 is connected to pad 1. Okay, that is pad 1 here. And then the pin 3 of the symbol is connected to 2 and 3rd pad. Okay, these 2 short circuited and connected to this pin here. Okay, this can be easily identified in your PCB by using the cross probing. Okay, same thing when I go for the second one, NXP, this is _N. So 2 models I'm using. So in this case, again, the pin designator is 1. For pin designator 1, the input pin will be replaced, connected to the pads 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 will be mapped here, and then the pin 3 will be mapped to pin 1. Okay, that is pad 1. Okay, so we'll see how it works inside the schematic sheet. I just closed it. So let me open the schematic sheet and then show you here. I just closed this editor. Okay, so let me close this. Okay, I come here, go to the component panel. So now I want to place. So when I try to place, I just press the tab key, go to the properties. Under the parameters here, you will see there are two footprints. Okay, first footprint when I use it's _m, it is input is 1 pin and then the output is 2,3 is connected to the pads 2,3, so it represents 2,3. But when I choose the second footprint, you will see the changes. If I choose second footprint, you can see the input is connected to the pads 2 and 3 and the output pin is connected to the pad 3. Okay, so this is how you can use for multiple footprints for a single symbol, and then you can use the cross probing to connect it to them in the PCB side to see the changes. So now it's not only for 2 pins, you can map for 4 pins, 5 pins, any number of pins you can map it now. Okay, so this is about your component pin to pads mapping. Okay, so next we are going to see about your Smart PDF, how to see the device sheet extension going from your main sheet to the child sheet. So let me open an example and show you here. I think I have opened it already. Okay, so I have opened here. So in this, you already know that when we usually click on one of your sheet symbol, control and click on the sheet symbol, it will take you to the child sheet. But for my case now, I'm going to see this in the Smart PDF. That is the improvisation done. So to do that, I will just go to the file, generate the Smart PDF. So when I generate Smart PDF, first step, it will ask you, you want to generate for the project? Yes. So I just go next. Okay, sorry. Yes, okay. So it selects all the documents here, except I don't want this PCB. I want only the schematic. Let me go next. I follow the default settings, what we usually use here. I'm not going to do any changes. Okay, so let me finish and show you how it works to see from your main sheet to the child sheet. Okay, so it's loading here. Then later it will generate the Smart PDF. Okay, it is generating. Okay. Yeah. So now you can see here, the Smart PDF has been generated from the main sheet. You can see all the child sheets here. So now let me zoom in. I want to see this, go to this child sheet of UDDR4. Okay, hold the control key and click on it. It will take you to that child sheet. Okay, so meaning it is very fast for the viewer to take view of their child sheets directly in the Smart PDF now. In similar, what you see inside the software can do it inside the Smart PDF also. So same thing, not only for the sheet symbol, you can also do for the harness, you can do for the sheet entries, all it will take you to that particular sheet. For example, if I click here, it will also take you to the sheet here. Okay, so this is about your Smart PDF, making your viewer to be very fast and easy. Now, let me go to the software, and then we are going to see about the 3D control. Okay, 3D view control about your board. Okay, so here under the view, you can see there is a 3D view control. This is what I was talking as a new feature which makes you to work faster using shortcut keys very faster by using the number keys in the keyboard. Okay, so here you can see the top side means number 1, bottom side control number 1, all these here. So instead of using go and click one by one, I'm going to use the shortcut keys, okay, to show you how it works more faster and easier. So first let me press in my number keypad, I just press 1, so it is in the top view. So when I press the control 1, you see it is in the bottom view. Okay, that is your control 1. So when I press 7, 7 is for front view. Okay, so control 7 is for back view. Okay, then this is next we are going to see about the left view and the right view. So left view is you can press 3. So 3 left view, control 3 is your right view. Okay, so this is about your views. So next, how to rotate your board. So let me press 0, bring it first. So I'm going to go for the rotate your board in shortcut. I press 2. Okay, so that is 2 is a rotate up. Okay, then control 2 is to move down. I say press control 2 is to move down. Okay, then rotate left. If you want to rotate left, you can press 4. Okay, rotate left. So control 4 will be moving to the left. Okay, then 6, rotate right. So control 6 is moving to the right. Then you can press 8 to move, rotate up. Okay, then control 8 is to move up. So these are all the shortcut keys. Using the number keypads, you can use it to rotate and view. Rotate it, pan it, and then you can see different angles of your 3D board. Okay, so this is very easy now to use it. And then next step, we are going to see about your how to see the let me open my board. Okay, now I'm going to see how to remove the unused pads. Okay, so I have an example board here to show you how to remove the unused pad. Let me select one pad here. So I just select this pad. I'm going to show the properties first. So going to the properties, you see all the wires are placed. Okay, each layer has their own wires here in the particular. For this, all the layers have the wires. So I view this in the 3D view also. Click here, go for 3D view. So in the 3D view, let me open the view configuration and then change the settings to show more clearly. Okay, so you can see here all the layers, you have the wires here. Okay, so the pad, you have all the wires in each layers you have here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this unused wires. Okay, to reduce the capacitance. Okay, reduce the effect of the capacitance through the path. I'm going to remove the unused wires. So what I just go do is I select this pad and then go to tools. Here you will see there is remove unused pad shapes. So click on it. You can see now there is wires, pads, both. I'm going to use both option. Then I'm going to remove the unused option, then selected only because I have selected one pad. So I'm going to apply it for the selected and then click OK. So it will do it for me. You can see below performing the online DRC check whether I'm deleting any wires which is connected to the layers or not. So once it is done, finish. Now let me go for the 3D view. You see in the 3D view, unused, the pads are all removed here. There is no unused pads. Okay, so this is the very good feature we have. It removes the unused pads so that it reduces the capacitance and it will increase the drilling effect for your board layers. Okay, so now I just double click on the wire and then see in the properties panel, you see there is no other wires, unused wires are all removed here. Okay, they're all removed here. So next what I'm going to show in the new feature is I'm going to select this particular net here and then I'm going to change it to the layer. Okay, so change to the layer and see how the unused pads are updated. Okay, update the unused pads we are going to see. So let me change this to layer 4. Okay, so I changed to layer 4 and then I'm going to update the pads. Okay, I changed it. So I'm going to go for the update the pads here. So let me select it and then go for tools, remove unused pads wires, and then I'm going to update the unused. Okay, so click OK. So once it is done, you will be seeing the changes from the 9th layer. The routing has been shifted to 4th layer. Okay, let me show you in the 3D view. Okay, now you see previously the connection was in the 9th layer. Now the connection goes to the 4th layer. Okay, it now no more 9th layer, the wires are not present because it is removed, because that pad is not, that is unused here. And now the 4th layer is used, the 4th layer wire is used. So it is connected to the 4th layer wire. Okay, same thing if I click on this pad and then I go for the properties panel and then you will see there is no the wires in the 9th layer. Okay, it is removed automatically. Okay, so this is how you can do it. And then next thing, in the same layer, I want to create a polygon pore. In one of the layers, I want to create a polygon pore and assign a net. Okay, for example, I select this layer, 4 internal, 3 ground layer. Let me draw the polygon pore for this layer. So just right click, go to place, polygon pore. So I'm going to draw here. So to draw shift, I'm using the 90 degree. Okay. Okay, I'm just drawing a polygon pore across this pad. Okay, so right click, come out of it. When I double click to open the properties, you will see it is not connected to no net. Okay, so I need to search which net I need to connect it. I need to search. So now I have a new option is I can click on this pipette. So this is called the pipette, will help me to assign the net. So when I click on this small the pen symbol, automatically the crosshair come out. I can click on any electrical objects within this polygon pore, so that the polygon pore will be done based on that particular selected electrical object. Okay, the net followed by that object. Okay, so now I have a pad here. This is a ground pad. So if I left click on this, automatically the polygon pore will be assigned to this area, will be assigned connected to the ground net. Okay, I just click on this, go to the properties panel. Our very important thing, I need to repore on. Okay, so when I repore it, you will see the pad is directly connected to the polygon pore, which is connected to the ground net. So now we no need to choose one by one, where is the net, which net I'm going to use. So just using this symbol, it will automatically assign the net and help me to choose here. Okay, so we have done this. So next step is we are going to see how to see the permanent layer. So let me choose my top layer. Okay, initially we see go for the view configuration. Initially we see layers. First, let me click on the top layer here, and then I'm in the top layer. I want to go for the single layer mode. So Shift S to go for the single layer mode. So now I just see only the top layer information. I'm in the single layer mode. Okay, so Control S, come back. So now I want to have a reference layer, okay, to make it as a permanent layer and see along with the top layer in a single layer mode. So to do that, you can hold the Control key and you can select the layer which you want to see together. Okay, for example, I want to see this internal 2 internal 3 ground. This layer I want to see together with my top layer. So hold the Control key and click. Okay, when you hold the Control key and click, it becomes the permanent layer and it acts as a reference along for the top layer. So now I go for the Shift S to see inside my screen. So Shift S, you see, when I press Shift S for the single layer mode, now I can see that particular layer also along with the top layer. Okay, so it acts as a reference along with the top layer and it will be a permanent layer. Okay, so this is how it is highlighted in your view configuration that acts as a permanent layer. Again, Shift S to bring your all the components back. Okay, so now the next step is I'm going to do the polygon pore to calculate see the overall polygon for my board. So to see the overall polygon, you can go to Tools, Polygon Pore, then restore the polygons first. Now to see the polygon for my board, just click on one of the polygon. Let me click on the whole polygon here, open the properties. You will see that it is connected to the net, the polygon, and it's in the top layer, and the area of the polygon is this much is the area of the copper. Okay, so you can see one by one like this, or if you want to see all the copper pore, whatever the copper pore we have in my board, I want to see it. You can go to Tools, Polygon Pore, Polygon Manager. Okay, go here. You will be able to see all the polygons here. Okay, top ground, top here in the top layer wise, you will see. In the top layer, you have top ground. What is the area of the copper? Then top A10. So individually, you can see one by one here. So the location, you can see it here. And what is the area of the polygon? All you can see one by one. Okay, not only for the top layer, other layers also you can see here. By selecting, you can see the polygons. Okay, individually you can see one by one. Okay, so you can see all the layers they have copper along with the copper area inside the particular layer. So next I want to generate the report. Okay, to generate the report for this copper, I can go to the board properties panel. Inside the board properties panel, you will see what board information like what is the horizontal size, vertical size, total area of your board, then the component area. The density you can calculate it by twice of your area of the board. That is the considering the board outline. Okay, that is the total area. So twice the doubling the area. Okay, doubling the area divided by your component area will give you the density of your board. Okay, now you can calculate using the formula. Then total number of components, which is for your top as well as bottom considered. You can see all the informations in your board properties. Also, you can see how many layers you have, signal layers, then the nets information, all the arcs, fills, pads, all the informations you can see here. So following, you can also generate the report. Okay, so when you click on the report, I want to generate the copper area. Okay, you can generate the other layer information, layer pair. Then you want to generate about your arcs, arc radius, trace width, all you can generate it as a report. Okay, for my case, I'm going to generate the copper area. So when I click on the report, the HTML report will be generated, and then it will give you the whole board information. You see, this is your HTML report, the date, the time, then the file name, and then you can see the copper area, what is the layer, then the in terms of square inches, square mm, then the percentage of the layer occupied by the copper. So all the information, then the total area. Okay, you can see the total area here. So this is how you can determine the report from the board. Okay, calculate a copper area for the whole board. Okay, so next one we are going to see about the, let me close this. Let me go for the embedded board. Okay, this is very important. So the next feature is your embedded board array. So I have this board. Okay, I'm going to do this as embedded. So to do the embedded, let me open my PCB here. Okay, I just opened the PCB sheet. So for this, I'm going to do the embedded for the particular embedded board array. So go for place, then go for your embedded board array, and then to bring it here, I just press the tab key. Then you can see I have already bring here, or you can click on the arrow mark. You can go for your embedded board array which you want to bring in, open the file here. Now once you bring in the file, this is the new feature where you can change any angle what you want to change, 0 degree or any angle. When you click the 0 degree anything, you just try to place one. Okay, so okay, so once, yeah, because I changed the stack up here, so it is showing that information. So later I will change that. Okay, so now if I want to rotate it, I want to place the second stack up and I want to rotate it, I can use the tab key. Now I can change to any angle. So 2 to 5 or any angle, now you can rotate it and you can just place it. So this is mainly for the manufacturer comfortable, for the fabrication purpose and the assembly process. Now you can type in any angle and then you can place it here. Okay, so this is about your embedded board array. Okay, so I just remove this now. Okay, so the next feature what we are going to see is I'm going to do the contour, what is it, contour selection by using the courtyard layer. So I go for my library. Inside my library, I have your courtyard library here, and then I have a component generated. I generated a small capacitor. So with the two pads, through hole pads, I generated a capacitor and I want to place it. Okay, let me place this. So go to place and then I try to place here normally. So when I try to place here, you see here, even though they don't touch, but when they come closer, you can see there is a violation. When I just move here, you can see, hold the shift, you see, even though they are closer, you can see there is a 10 mils, less than 10 mils, so it generates the violation because the bounding box are so closer to each other. Okay, that's why it's generating the violations. So to avoid these violations, I'm going to use the courtyard layer, and then using the courtyard layer, I can change the bounding box to be inside itself. Okay, so let me do that and show you. So go to the courtyard PCB. I change this layer. To change, go to view configuration. Under your component layer pair, you need to create the courtyard layer. That is very, very important. That layer is specifically assigned for this bounding box. Okay, so I just add the component layer pair, choose courtyard layer. Okay, so now you will have two courtyard layers, one in the top and one in the bottom. Now this outer circle is in the top overlay. So once this one, I need to move this top overlay to top courtyard. Okay, so let me select this and then move to top courtyard. Okay, so this is very important. You're using the top overlay means you can change to top courtyard. If you are using bottom overlay, you need to use the bottom courtyard. You cannot change as you like from top overlay to bottom courtyard. You cannot change. You can change only from their own side. Top overlay to top courtyard, bottom overlay to bottom courtyard only you can change. So let me change to top courtyard and then save this. So once I saved it, I'm going to update this inside my PCB. So go to tools, then I'm going to update this with the current footprints. Okay, so when I update it, I'm just going to open the PCB document and see. So the PCB tool, let me open here. You see, now there is no more violation. Okay, you can see when I move together closer to each other, so they change to courtyard. If I click, you see the bounding box, it's inside. So this is the advantage of using the courtyard layer. So they comes inside along with the layer, and when you move closer, there is no more violation. Then if I want to see after I change, I can also see what is the component area of each component. Double click on this, you see the properties, the area of each component we can refer. Okay, you can see here. Or if you go to the board properties, in this board I have two components. So open the board properties, you will be able to see what is the area and what is the component area occupied by the two components. So all this reference information you can see it from the board properties. Okay, so next one is we are going to see about your a very important feature. Let me go for this project here. Okay, here. Okay, string. Okay, here I'm going to add the designator layer for my assembly layer. Okay, how to add the designator layer for my assembly layers. So to add, we can go for the tools and then add designators for the assembly drawing. So just click on add designators. First, initially when you click, it will say no mechanical layers for designator type form. Would you like to add? Yes. So it will, when I click yes, it will automatically generate for me. I no need to draw by myself, it will generate. So you see 1046 the assembly component designators were added. So I just click OK. Once you do that, in the bottom you can see that top assembly layer will be here. You can see the top designator layer is been generated. Top designator and bottom designator is generated. So keeping top designator layer as an active layer, change to single layer mode. You can see that all the designators for the assembly process. You can see the designators. Okay. You can adjust the designators from here. Click on one of the designators, right click, you can go for find similar object. You will see here string type, and then you can choose the strings from the top designators. You can choose and then apply, then okay. Now all the designators selected from the top designator layer. Now you can adjust the text height, what height you want. For example, I want to change to 1, and then I want to change your stroke width to 0.1. You can change it off. Okay, so all you can change it. Then shift S to change the layers. Shift C. Okay. Okay, so you can change it like this. Then similar way, if you want to add the string, okay, for example, I want to add the string here. So you can add the string by, sorry, let me go to the top layer and then show you more clearly. Okay, make top layer to be active. So add the string. So when you want to add the string, please see here, the very important, this is the new improvements in the 21. You can see the justification. So the justification, the string is in the left side here. And then if I want to move it to the center, you can click the center. So when I click the center, the string what you're typing will comes to the center of the bounding box. Then if you want to move to the left, you can click on the left, or you can move it to the below the justification, or the center, or in the top, all in the vertical alignment alone. If you want to do it, you can just do this. Okay, so now for example, let me place the string here, and then if I want to, I just placed it. Now I need to align all this. So you can just select one of the string, and then you can just do the select it. You can just increase the size, and then if you see you want to adjust the size here, again you can see you can adjust to left, center, or the right. So all these adjustments you can do it here, or you can also select all these and align it. Select all these three and then right click. You can go for alignment. So align based on the top, you can align it. Then if you want to, because my size, it depends upon the bounding size, so it goes on the top based on the bounding size here. And then if you want to align it in the distribute horizontal distance, also you can do this. Let me select all the string, right click, align. Then I want to distribute them horizontally, so they will be distributed horizontally. So you can select all the strings and then align the distance between them also. So this is your string alignments. You can do it. Okay, so last one feature I want to show is about your asymmetric impedance calculation. So let me open that asymmetric impedance calculation PCB. So I just go to this PCB here, go to the design layer stack manager. This is a very good, huge improvements have been done in this layer stack. So I'm using a 6-layer stack, and then between the top layer I have the dielectrics. You can see there is a dielectrics here, and then the very important thing is, if I choose the impedance profile, select the impedance profile, and then if I go to this second mid layer, and then I want to assign the reference layer for this mid layer 3 here, I need to choose here which should be the reference layer, that is from where to where. Okay, I need to choose the reference. If I choose the VCC as reference, then I just go and click here. You will see it will automatically calculate the width of the particular what should be the width of the trace will be calculated from the layer 2 to layer 5. That's very important. And then it's very good feature is, you can see the dielectric layers. It is between the conductors, I have different dielectric layers. Each dielectric layer have their own thickness and own dielectric constant. Is very important. They have their own dielectric constants here, and you can also invert the traces. Okay, if you want to invert the traces, you can invert the traces. This is a very good feature we have in the latest version for high-speed design in the asymmetric strip line impedance calculation. Okay, so this is about your impedance calculation. I think I have completed all. Okay, thank you very much for attending the webinar. Okay, I will stop sharing. We will see in the next webinar. Thank you very much. See you all in the next webinar.